the research shown is that, doesn't matter how hard about try to please the employee, it doesn't matter. There's always some employee will bite their mouth, boss. Sometimes the colleague, the colleague is too selfish. The colleague is too egocentric, okay? The company will colleague. But then again, the same principle again. Now, are you selfish? Are you greedy? Are you also ambitious to get ahead? So again, you're projecting your own problem to your colleagues. So some understanding of the human condition and help you quite a bit. Now here's something again, it's interesting that this guy, super happened to him. He was get stuck in this, trying to get ahead in life, but got stuck in a job that doesn't promise upward mobility. You can get stuck in a low-paying job for years. So you ask yourself, say, I want to be a reporter. I want to be a movie star. I want to be an artist. But now I'm getting stuck, serving on tables. Serving tables. Do you know that I got stuck for many years doing all kinds of odd jobs? Cleaning washroom, carry 100-pound rice at a coolie, doing typing, trying to be a graphic artist. I have all kinds of odd jobs, and I got fired many times. I'm not getting anywhere. Just high school graduate, what can I do? All my brothers and sisters after high school go to university, but I'm just bad luck, right? By the time I got to high school, my father got broke, bankrupt. So I had to work to support my parents for 7 years. I do this clerical work, blue collar work, this. I get stuck, right? But I did not stop dreaming, right? While I'm typing, I said, oh, one day I'll become a professor. Oh, one day I'll become an author. Oh, one day I'll become a pioneer, a missionary. All these dreams came true. All came true. But those years, I continued to read, go to public library, borrow books and read. You never get stuck. Intellectually, spiritually, mentally. You get stuck in a job, but it doesn't mean that you stop dreaming and hoping and striving and preparing yourself moving forward. Right? So you can consider that as a period for preparation. Okay, now look at the picture. So I can see myself there. You have a long way to go, young man. I can see myself there. I'm 75, right? Can you see me there? I'm in the hospital. Right? And I know what it's like to be in the hospital, going to surgery after surgery. I know what it's like. Now, are we doomed when we get older? But I'm still standing, right? I've been there, so here's the key thing. I got a new lifespan developmental psychology. We can continue to grow, continue to learn, continue to grow until you drop dead. I love your breath. You know, continue to grow spiritually. Okay? Continue to grow in terms of wisdom, in terms of generativity and creativity. So there's nothing to prevent you from continue to grow as a person. Okay? So Apostle Paul said, when our body is worn out, but my inner being is being renewed every day. So we are trapped in body. But trapped in body, well, you talk about your journey, right? You can renew it inwardly. That's the key, right? Now, here is, in Chinese called 坐井观天. Do you know Chinese? 坐井观天. You know what I'm talking about? You look at the sky for the bottom of a well. You say, oh, my world is terrible. There's no opportunity here. There's no way out. There's no hope for me. I'll stay in the bottom of a well in this ghetto, a Chinese ghetto or Italian ghetto. Stay in the ghetto. People discriminate against us. The world is against us. There's no hope. That view that you are stuck means that you will stuck. Right? You think you're stuck. You think there's no way out. You remain at the bottom. You dream about the outside world. It's about there has to be a big world for me. You get out. You find we get out. Okay? Now here, I know you can trap. If this rat find his hat, got trapped by a trap, whose fault? Eh? Now, who's to blame?
Piece of cheese.
Yielding to temptation.
It's the rat to blame. If a smart rat, he will sniff around. He knows there's a trap there, right? He's not too smart. Oh, yummy. And swallow the whole thing and got trapped. So sometimes, all how we talked about earlier are human condition. But this is also a human condition because we all have our vulnerable points. Your temptation is where you are vulnerable. There isn't a single person who is not vulnerable at a certain point, right? So in a way, that is also part of the human condition. Now I remember there was one pastor, very famous pastor. He was one of the pastors of the mega church with 3,000 people. And he preached against homosexual and he's anti-gay. And then funny part is he got caught having a relationship with a young man. You know that case? The pastor is from Colorado. He got caught having sex, having a relationship with a young man. So he's gay, right? So he is, as a result, he's expelled from the church. Not only that, he also signed an agreement never to return to the city. He's banished, exiled. Okay. So he go around peddling, go to a salesman to make a living. So he's not allowed to preach again. Now here in the park, there was an interview with him about how he coped with the situation and how he recovered. Okay? One of the interesting things is that he came on top of human condition, human weakness. He must have learned that from his counselor, a therapist. We are all human beings. I did that because of my human weakness, because of human condition. He kept on using that phrase, human condition, human weakness. I mean, yeah, but it's true. Given the same situation, we all could have committed sin against our own conscience, make mistakes, okay? So in a way, the rat has said, well, the part of the rat condition that we love to crave for cheese, the incurable craving, in our blood, being a rat. I used to be a rat man, I know a lot about rats, okay? I do a lot of research with rats, okay? And I also responsible for killing them after experiment, okay? So I know a lot about rats, okay? So I can't resist it, it's in our blood, right? My mother never taught me to avoid rat, right? I took a proper education, so I got caught. Okay? So you can blame your parents and blame your being a human being. But key is that in that situation, some traps could have been avoided. Right? If I tell you, watch out your vulnerable points, but that is area where you're more likely to be tempted. So that helps you to prevent, right? Let me just sip of water or tea, whatever it is. I'm getting hot. I have a strip. That's for my sins. I'm not a lawyer, my sins. I'm a pretend lawyer. Thank you. Now, this is the biggest obstacle. Negative mindset. I can't do it. The whole wide world against me. I can't do it. I'm a Chinese. I can't speak perfect English. I can't get a job. I've been to jail so many times. There's no way to get it. That negative thinking is the biggest obstacle between you and success. Now, a friend of mine, a medical doctor from China, her English is not very good. So she wrote, he paid money to find an internship. And then she wrote exam. Year after year, she failed. She never gave up. After 10 years, she finally passed the exam and get her license. Now she's been practicing medicine for 30 years now. She could have said, oh, I'll never pass. My English is not good enough. Oh, these American, Canadian people, prejudice against people from China. They were biased, racial bias. I'm not trying anymore. I won't try anymore. And then he will remain unfulfilled. Right? But she didn't try until she passed. She'll feel very unfulfilled because she was a medical doctor in China, a good one. But now in Canada, she had to go through the hoops, right? Pass exams. So this negative thinking is primarily responsible for being stuck. Okay? Now I have struggled with that. Most people say, oh, you're so old, you're not well, why don't you pack up, retire, and enjoy yourself? Why do you try to do this, try to do that? But I'm still struggling. Brendan knows I'm still struggling to write a big paper with his help. And Jessica knows I'm still struggling to write a book. I'm still struggling, striving. If I stop striving towards my ideal, I'll degenerate. I'll go downhill. I'm 75, right? I shall pack up, go home, go to China, go back to your birthplace, which is Tianjin. Go back to Tianjin and enjoy your retirement. Right? So that is the killer. The self-doubt. We all have. It's part of human condition. But you have to find a way to counteract, right? Now here, this is a famous book. How many people have read that book? You have. Anybody else? You must have. You better read my good stuff. This is a very famous book, used in high school, as French-speaking high school, by Jean-Paul Sartre. No exit. Basically, the play is about three people get stuck in one room and no exit. They hate each other, they argue, but can't get out. But it is a depiction of hell. But more realistically, it's a depiction of this life. Sometimes your family, they keep on arguing, fighting each other, day in, day out, all scolding each other, blaming each other, can get out. But I'm saying that there's always a way out. Now, as a believer, I'll say, God will make a way when there's no way, And God can create stream in desert. Even if you're not Christian, then based on your religion, you always see there's always a way. There's always a way. There's no such thing as no exit. There's always a way out. Frank would say, you always had, at least you had freedom of attitude, right? You may not have the physical freedom, but you always have freedom of attitude. That I will overcome. Right? I will not surrender. I will take a stand. See? So there's always a way out. Okay? Now, you talk about summertime. I know in winter or with this snow. Okay? Often the car gets stuck, right? And we got stuck on the journey of life. When the car gets stuck, what do you do?
Auto truck.
You press more gas, right? Huh? But you spin the wheel, right? Do you spin the wheel, get you out? No, you get deeper, right? So the instinct is to spin the wheel, right? But that's the least helpful. The many things you can do to make the heart move again. Similarly, the many things you can do to get your life moving forward again. You are never stuck. You are stuck only because you think stuck. Okay? Now we learn something. Okay? Now I'm showing you how the double vision works. Okay? You will bifocal. I will bifocal. Okay? Double vision. Okay? So one thing help me to read, and then upper part allow me to see your faces or watching TV. Okay? See how it works. Okay? Jessica draw this diagram for me. Okay? Now here is the immediate problem you're working on. Okay? What I want to do about it, how can I get out of this is, so you're focused on the immediate problem right before your eyes. Okay? That's the area you're working on. But I'm saying that you also ask the big questions. The big question dealing with global meaning. So meaning, there's situation meaning, global meaning. Global meaning has to do with your worldview, your belief systems, and you ask what is God, what's the point? So you begin to ask the big questions. That's why in the beginning I said the big question about human nature, about human condition, is the beginning of a solution. Okay? When you begin to look at the big picture, you begin to understand your situation much better. Okay? Now here are some of the benefits. Okay? See both the tree and the forest. If you only look at the tree, you don't have perspective. When you see your personal predicament as part of human condition, how do you feel? You see your personal predicament as part of being human, how do you feel? You feel better, right? You feel better? You feel that you're not alone. You normalize the problem. You normalize the problem. Also, you'll be more accepting of yourself, more accepting of other people, right? Because we are all part of a human race. So that's where the Buddha talks compassion, right? Because compassion means when understanding the root of your own suffering, I want you to see the root of suffering for your other fellow beings. Also, another advantage is that you're connecting the immediate goal with your ultimate goal. Now, I work with drug addicts, okay? Now, drug addicts always say, you live one day at a time. And they're going to mad with me. They're going to mad with me, say, we addicts only live one day at a time. We don't really think about the future. So I say, my friend, you can also live one day at a time, but you keep an eye on the future, on your future dream. It makes you easier to cope with today, right? You say, I want to recover so that I can get back to my family again. That's future plan, right? Even a future goal ahead of you is easier for you to get through the day, right? So it's not mutually exclusive. The other thing is that the fourth point is that exercise the personal freedom to explore all options and take heroic stand. Now, here's the trick. Remember, we look at the first slide, it's pretty depressing. But even in that bleak situation, the guy still had the freedom to choose his attitude. He still had the freedom. And he still had the freedom to call for help. Help, help. Even nobody answers, it doesn't prevent him from calling help. He still had the freedom to get out of where he stuck and move forward. You had to crawl, move forward. He is still moving, right? If you go crawling, you still don't move forward. You're not stuck. Okay? So there are always options. Okay? And number 5, it allows you to view life from a larger vision, not tunnel vision. Okay? 我们Chinese 嘛，有脚尖是吧？ Get started in the how to say in English. 有脚尖 anybody know how to translate that? You get yourself stuck in the inside corner. You can't get out, okay? You can't get out. And Chinese people also say, when you step back, the sky opens up, right? 退一步
進一步，退一步，海闊天空啊！
退一步
係，yeah.
退一步
When you step back, you see the sky's a bigger view. When you move forward, it's more like you forcing it. So you're more like stuck.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So you added the big thing.
Wisdom.
Yeah. The Chinese ancient wisdom, okay? But it still works. So number 3 is very important. Often you get fight with people, you got depressed because you do not see things in proper perspective. Okay? Last week I talked about catastrophizing. Remember, the woman's husband found the husband was lying to her and had an affair. Okay. Then she comes to the conclusion that all men can be trusted, right? Right? All men are bad. And some two men got real mad with me, saying I'm attacking men. I say I'm thinking about the woman's perspective, which is the wrong perspective. Said all men are bad because her husband had an affair outside. A proper perspective say, oh well, this is just one time, one person. A proper perspective that all men can have affairs. A woman, now there are more women have affairs. She has so many, right?
I can't count.
So the free world, everybody liberated, all right? Everybody liberated. You old people have affairs. You know, those people over 70, so just a hope for me, right? My wife would kill me. So you know, you've got to see things from perspective, right? Now, here I learned that from Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee could beat everybody, he adjusts his style to everybody, he could beat a guy way bigger than he is, right? If you learn from water, there's always a way to beat the opponent, right? So his style of boxing is water style, obviously. Oh, my wife told me. Okay, big vision. When you start the signal for you to redirect your life, and here, sometimes can change the situation, change yourself. Now, if you look at the date, I don't know how many people are on the dating circuit, okay? If you look at a date, never pass the first date. You start thinking, what I've done wrong, okay? What I've done wrong, okay? So maybe there's something you need to change about yourself, okay? maybe you're what do you call it? You know, whatever defect that jump you out, maybe too assertive or too passive, or you know, there's always some character defect that you're not aware of. So better find it out, correct yourself, and then you can be a multi-cyber person. Okay? And here, main problem related to existential concerns. Your depression, your anxiety could be related to your underlying existential concern about death, about aging. And here, sometimes you lost a job, not for you, because global forces, global recession. And here, you keep an eye on the ball and not let it go in order to win the game. Okay? And here, you do it close, don't waste the time, move forward. I'll do a moment to you. And here, accept good and bad times. Okay? Bad time doesn't mean the end of your life, because bad time will pass away. Everything is transient, right? And here, all the things you've gone through help you to clarify your meaning, your global meaning. That helps you to live better. Oh, thank you.